Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our September Topic Tuesday webinar. We're very glad to have you all here today. We want to go over a few housekeeping items before we start our webinar. Just know that we are in webinar mode, so during the presentation, please feel free to use the chat box to communicate directly with the panelist. And you can also use the Q&A. So that's the way that we will be communicating today. But as everyone is getting into the webinar, we want to launch a poll very quickly, just as everyone's getting settled. So our poll today is in a national survey of college students found that what percentage of these college students at two-year institutions faced food insecurity. So we're going to launch that poll there for you. Give you just a minute to think about that. What percentage of college students at two-year institutions faced food insecurity? And again, this was a national survey. All right, we will look at the results. It looks like most all of you, about 35% of y'all, got the correct answer. And the correct answer to that poll is 38%. So thank y'all for participating in that. We'll hear more about that statistic shortly in our presentation. All right. So again, welcome to the webinar. I am Shannon Grimsley, the Assistant Director of External Training and Partnerships for the Woodward Hines Education Foundation and the Get to College program. We are recording today's session and will send a link to anyone who is registered. For those watching the recording, today's date is September the 2nd, 2025, and the material in this webinar is current through the 25-26 school year. In today's session, Feed Your Future SNAP benefits for college students, you're going to hear all the latest updates on how college students can qualify for SNAP benefits. So we're looking forward to our agenda today. So we will have our presentation. We will welcome questions at the end, and then we'll also let you all know about our upcoming webinars and trainings that will be happening later this fall. So I will now share a little background on Get to College and a few logistics about the webinar before we get started. Get to College is a nonprofit program of the Woodward Hines Education Foundation. We have 3 centers in Mississippi, actually 4, one in Jackson, one in Ocean Springs, and one in South Haven. And our newest, when I say 4, our newest center is our mobile center. So we actually have a mobile center that will be going across the state of Mississippi to help students and meet them where they are. It will be mostly be in the Mississippi Delta, but might be in some other places later. But right now, that mobile center is focusing on the Mississippi Delta. So if you are in the Mississippi Delta, look for our Get to College brand new mobile center driving around the streets of your town. So we're very excited about that for 2025. Here at the Get to College Center, we help parents, students, and high school counselors with all aspects of college planning and financial aid, and all of our services are 100% completely free. In the centers, we offer personalized college counseling appointments where we can tell students when and how to apply for admission and scholarships, help them fill out their FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, or advise on things such as essay writing and interviewing. As we mentioned earlier in the webinar, we cannot see or hear you, but you can ask us questions through the instant messenger or Q&A at any time. Kirsten Dufour, my colleague, will be monitoring and replying to the Q&A today, and we will have time for a live Q&A with the presenter at the end. But feel free, of course, to message your questions at any time. I would now like to introduce our guest speaker for today. Our guest speaker today is Satoya Jones. Satoya is a dedicated leader with over a decade of experience in public service and property management. She is currently serving as Director of Special Programs at the Mississippi Department of Human Services, where she develops strategic program initiatives, leads cross-functional teams, and fosters community partnerships to improve service delivery and impact. Previously, Satoya successfully managed the statewide PEBT project, ensuring accurate benefit distribution and interagency collaboration. Satoya also brings extensive operational and team leadership experience from her 6-year tenure in property management with Case and Associates. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Exercise Science from Delta State University and is a graduate of the Advanced Applied Leadership Program at Millsaps College. Satoya, I will now turn the presentation over to you. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Shannon. I appreciate it. And good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. As she mentioned, I'm Satoya Jones, and I'm excited to talk to you all about a resource that often goes overlooked, and that's SNAP for college students. Today in the webinar, it is called Feed Your Future, SNAP for college students. And that's really what it's all about, ensuring that students are not only investing in their education, but also able to meet their basic needs, especially food. We know it's hard to focus on grades, tests, and training for a career if you're worried about groceries or your next meal. Today, I'll walk you through the problem of student hunger, explain how SNAP works and can help, and go over student requirements. By the end, you'll be able to share this information with others in your community or campus. Let's start with the problem we're here to address, and that's student hunger. A national survey of college students found that 38% of students at a 2-year institution experience food insecurity. We don't want hunger to stand in the way of community college success. So that means 4 out of 10 students struggle to afford or consistently access nutritious foods. Food insecurity doesn't mean just being hungry. It can mean skipping meals, relying on cheap food with little nutrition, or just worrying about where your next meal will come from. Think about it this way, in real life. Imagine a college student in an evening class, haven't eaten since lunch. It's been a really long day, trying to pay attention. It's really hard when your stomach's growling because you haven't eaten since lunch. Students usually have to choose between textbooks or food. So this is really impactful for a lot of students. Students who are food insecure often have lower GPAs, higher stress levels, and more likely to drop out. So hunger is a barrier to success. So here's where SNAP can help. It's designed to help people with low income supplement their grocery budget so they can afford nutritious foods. The maximum benefit for a single person household, $292. That's nearly $70 a week to spend on groceries. For many students, that could mean covering almost their entire food budget. It's also important to know SNAP is flexible. You can use it at most grocery stores, big box stores, and some former markets. It's giving students freedom to shop for food that fits their needs. So SNAP is not just a safety net, it is a tool that helps students stay healthy, focused, and on track for graduation. So there are some student requirements along with the regular requirements for SNAP. So in addition to SNAP requirements, like income and resource limits, Students who are enrolled at least half-time in higher education must have an additional requirement called student exemption. One of the first things to know that if you receive most of your meals through campus meal plan, meaning more than 50% of your 3 meals daily, you are not eligible for SNAP. The idea is that if your food needs are already covered through a meal plan, then you don't need the additional benefits. But here's the good news. Most community colleges either don't have meal plans or their meal plans don't cover all their meals. That means many students still qualify. Another important exemption is tied to career and technical programs. The Mississippi Department of Human Services has clarified that any student enrolled in career and/or technical course of study as defined under the Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Act automatically meets a student exemption. This is big news because that means students who are training to be welders, electricians, nurses, mechanics, are just pursuing a career program at community colleges are likely eligible for SNAP. Now, if you're not in a career or technical program, there are other ways you can qualify. Working 20 hours or more per week. Many students balance jobs and school. If you're working at least 20 hours, that meets the requirement. Caring for a dependent child. If you're a student parent, you may qualify under this rule. Having a physical or mental condition that makes you unable to work. That includes documented disabilities. Being approved for work study. If your school has offered you a work study position, you qualify even if you don't work the full 20 hours. So there are multiple pathways for students to qualify depending on their situation. Another important piece is the household status. To qualify for SNAP, students generally need to show that they live in their own household. That doesn't necessarily mean they live alone. It's just that means they prepare food separately and from others. For example, roommates. If you have a roommate, you can still qualify. And however, there is a rule, anyone under 22 living with their parents, you're considered to be a part of your parents' household for SNAP. That means you cannot receive benefits separately. And you can apply at accessmississippi.gov. Anyone can apply for SNAP. The process is straightforward. It helps to be prepared. So we ask for students to gather all the information, proof of income, identification, proof of residency, to make it easier, make the process go easier. And it's also worth noting that financial aid does not usually count as income for SNAP, except for work study. So things like Pell Grants, scholarships, or loans are just not generally not reduce your eligibility. All right, we have been working on some outreach materials to spread the word about SNAP for college students. This includes flyers, posters, and digital resources that could be shared on campus or through student services. For colleges and organizations, that is a great opportunity to connect with students with resources that can support their success. So you can put the flyers up in student centers, you can email digital copies, or just include it in their orientation packet. And here are some examples. And each flyer will have a QR code that leads directly to our website. So don't let hunger crash your GPA. And if they can answer yes to any of these questions, they may be eligible. And here's another, and just in a different format. Start the semester strong, which I feel is a great slogan. And also we'll have that QR code. We're updating our website, by the way, with all of these resources and more for SNAP for college students. So another, and these are will mostly be posted on our social media, these digital images here. So don't let hunger crash your GPA. And it just gives a broader aspect of that for the college students. They're mostly on social media, so it'll be easy for them to access. And there's another example. And I think, yes, that will also be posted on social media as well. Okay. So do you have any questions for me? And I'm not sure if it's any in the chat, but I am happy to answer anything that I can.
We don't have any questions so far in the chat, but I've
Okay.
got a couple questions. We'll give attendees time to throw those. So if you'll, attendees, if you've got questions, if you'll please put those in the Q&A box and they'll be addressed as they come through. So this was very informative. I have some questions that maybe people are thinking, they haven't thrown them in that question box quite yet. So
Okay, sounds good.
share with us kind of what are some of the common misconceptions that you hear about SNAP eligibility for students?
Well, I think it's, for the most part, it's a lack of knowledge. A lot of people don't know that students can qualify and that it's not just for families. So that is the most common that I've come across, that they feel that it is for an established family, or but it could be just one individual household. So that is the most common.
Okay, that's really helpful. We've got some additional questions coming in. And so the first that I see is what are other examples of the student exemption to qualify for SNAP? Can you revisit and give some additional examples there?
Sorry, repeat that for me.
What are other examples of the student exemption to qualify for SNAP benefits?
Okay. So other exemptions can be included outside of what I've already discussed. Those are the most common that I'm aware of. I will let my colleagues speak up if I am misspeaking because they are the experts in this. But outside of the career and technical um, programs, you also, like I said, you have the working 20 hours, or if you're a parent, any disabilities, and being approved for work study. And I know there are some more, so I will let them answer in the chat if they can, if I am speaking incorrectly.
Thank you. That is helpful. Just reviewing those exemptions itself. And we've got a few more that are coming in. The next one is, will students need to go to the local county office to apply for those benefits?
No, they can apply online, so it does, you don't have to necessarily go into the office to apply. So we're making it for easy access through our website or through that QR code that will be available on all those materials that we'll share.
Wonderful. And I know that that participants will really eagerly distribute those, I'm sure, to get that information out, particularly then now that there's not the barrier of having to go to a specific office and can utilize
Right.
online with it. Our next question that we have is an example is a attendee, their daughter is a graduate student at Ole Miss and they live in their own apartment. Would this student be eligible?
So more than likely they can qualify if they meet the requirements. So anyone can apply for SNAP as long as they meet those requirements. So I would encourage her to apply and see if she could get approved. Yes.
Okay, next
It's not
question. There's
just
a lot
limited
coming.
to community colleges, but
That's really helpful to remember that it's for institutions across the board, and it sounds like doesn't have to be just undergraduate, correct? If a student is a graduate student on their own, if
right.
they meet the qualifications, they can also potentially receive these benefits.
That's correct. Yes. This is just often overlooked for for
Which
students.
is why we want to make sure we have you here and get this
Yes.
information out there to students so that they're aware. Our next question that we have is, what is the minimum number of hours a student must work to be eligible? So does it align to minimum work study hours? What does that look like?
For work study, there's not a limitation on those hours. But if a student is working, it has to be 20, at least 20 hours.
All right, so that's helpful. A minimum requirement of at least 20 hours. The
Yes.
next question is, if a student receives most of their meals from a meal plan and also receives work study, they are ineligible, correct?
If it's more than 50% of their meals for the week, yes, more than likely. So if it's more than 50%
All
from a meal
right,
plan.
so yes. The next is more of a comment from attendee. It says they learned last month that Pearl River Community College has a food pantry in Poplarville. Other schools may have the same. Are you aware of that type of benefit? Do you know of any schools off the top of your head? If not, attendees, you may want to throw those in the chat so that way we share that knowledge out there. I know this can go hand in hand for students as well.
Right. I don't know any offhand, but I feel that is a great benefit for students, the food pantries. So please share if you know of any.
Yes, we've got a great community of knowledge here that we want to make sure we get across. I have another question that came to
Okay.
my mind, in case our attendees have more questions here. What would you say is the biggest barrier that college students face when trying to access SNAP benefits? Aside from, we've addressed they may not know that they can get it. What other barriers have you seen? So that way, our attendees can make sure that we are trying to help those students overcome them.
I would say not being prepared with the proper documentation. And we don't put limits on how you can verify, especially your household. So it's different ways you can do that. But I guess not being prepared to just have everything in order when you're applying and trying to get those benefits. That's what I would say mostly.
And can you give us an overview one more time of what the documentation that they need? And if it's a specific slide, we can go back to that too, just so it's top of mind while we're talking about it.
But and these are just examples of what they can use. It's not limited to these things, but it could be a rental agreement with their name, in their name. Also, the utility bill with their name and address, official mail, bank statement, tax documents, um, just shows their address, financial aid letter. You can have a letter from your landlord, because I know sometimes with the roommate situation, you might not be listed directly, with your roommate. So you can get a letter from your landlord stating that you live at that address. Voter registration card, driver's license, and just a state ID with that current address. And those are just examples of what they can use.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Kind of along that same thought, are there any specific populations of students, this could be international students, undocumented students, who face unique challenges that you often run into that are like, oh, if you're in this population, make sure that and you have to do a little bit additional as advisors, knowing that they may have to provide different documentation or it may be more challenging for them.
Well, I haven't personally experienced any of that, and I'm not sure if any of my colleagues can speak on that. Um, I know that will be different if you have to establish citizenship and all those things coming from a different country. So I'm not an expert on that. But if anyone would like to chime in, that would be great.
Absolutely, and we're monitoring the chat and Q&A here for, I know we've got some additional colleagues from MDHS and the attendees that are answering some of those. So we'll come back to that if we get that answer clarification, if it's applicable. We do have another attendee question. Are they able to get provided printed copies of the flyers that they can share at schools and churches, or do they need to download and print those themselves? How does that information sharing happen?
Okay, as far as I know we will have it available digitally, and you can access it through our website once we finalize all of these. I'm not sure if we will provide printed copies, but you will have access where you can print it on your own.
Okay, that is great. And we'll make sure in the follow-up to link to the website, so that way y'all can save that and utilize it. I know that QR code was something that was going to be updated as well, and we got that. So we'll make sure and share that out in the post. I do
Okay.
have Cicely answered kind of that specific populations, and Castor did too. So more clarification there is more verification of citizenship may be required for undocumented students. So that just a specific population may need more information. And then a requested documents for verification to determine eligibility will vary on case by case basis per applicant and or household. So just know from the advisor standpoint, and it may not be as one experience the same as the next student's experience. So just like with other verification supports, making sure that it's done throughout that whole process, because it is a case by case basis. So something to keep in mind. All right, I've got another
Thank you,
question.
guys.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Continue to chime in and we'll answer those based off your comments. Another question for you, and we can pitch it to your colleagues too, is a lot of the attendees in this webinar are high school advisors, whether they're a career coach or a counselor or a mentor. You know, they're working more in that high school space. How can they help their students learn more and apply for SNAP, because they're not in that college space and they may not necessarily know their financial situation, but they maybe are working at a school district that's 100% free and reduced lunch, right? So
Right.
there is a space that they know that there is financial need when they're counseling students in their post-secondary plans, particularly, you know, we talked a lot about those community college. It's a little easier because they're not 100% meal planned there. What would you want them to use, like advising wise, as they even introduce this conversation?
I would just say give as much information as possible. And they're in that high school space, so like you said, they're not out there yet. But once they get out there, they need to know what tools are available for them to succeed. So I would just say make sure you give them as much information on it as possible. So when they are in that space to need help, they know where to go.
All right, that is very helpful. I'm gonna take this to the next level then, and we do have some college partners that will attend these or watch the recording, and we share out. What would you say? What would be a best practice for campus staff, or you maybe first year advisors that are working with first gen student groups or things like that on a college campus, to support students with their application process and continue that dialogue that they've hopefully are now receiving in high school about awareness onto the college campuses?
Well, I would encourage them not to be ashamed. I know some people may come from a different space and may feel shameful just having to apply for those benefits, but just knowing that it's a tool that they could use to succeed, and just rely on it for that aspect and not from a shameful aspect, if that makes sense. Just encourage them that it is for their best interest.
Absolutely. We are all here to ensure that students are successful in those
Correct.
post-secondary plans and continuing that.
And, you know, the distribution of the materials, are y'all going to be sending like emails or letters or some sort letting colleges know that these materials are available, or just hoping to get the word out through things like this?
Once we
Social media.
right.
Yeah.
So once we get everything finalized, I can share with you guys, and then we can just kind of keep the ball rolling to know that everything is finalized and accessible. So and I can check also with Claire to see if she had a different game plan. But I know once we get those flyers and the website up and running, we will just put the word out there, and then hopefully from y'all and everyone else, it just keeps going.
Yeah. I do think that was the plan. I do think that's why Claire, who also works for MDHS, for those of you who are on here, contacted us at Get to College about kind of sharing and spreading the word about these SNAP benefits for college students. Because, as Satoya said, I think some students are maybe embarrassed to talk about it, or they don't
Right.
understand the process. And so we really appreciate MDHS wanting to be more transparent in this operation, and making sure that folks know and understand. So, we here at Get to College will be certainly glad to distribute the information, and I'm sure there may be other colleges on this webinar that might contact you afterwards about,
That is
getting
fine.
that information. So,
Okay, and that's absolutely fine. I'll put
yeah,
it out there.
we're excited about that.
I've
Yes.
got one last question, then we can kind of hand it back to you, Shannon, is um, where should educators and or students stay abreast, and if they hear in the media about funding changes and things like that, or state budget changes, that is to your very first slide about it's really hard for a student to think about schoolwork if they are hungry, right? And they're
Right.
in food insecure in that space. Um, we do a lot of education around the financial aid and the changes that come fluidly there. How would you recommend for a student and family to know what's going to maybe affect them and their eligibility, but then also advisors who are maybe here and want to share this information? How can they make sure they've got the most current information to share out with their students and families?
Well, I know as for us, we try to keep everything updated, especially as far as social media, in which I know the younger generation, they live on it. So we keep that updated, and our website as much as possible. We try to have that current information. So and also, as I get information, is the daily news. And so, with those combinations, I feel that they can stay up to date on the topics and just stay relevant with everything that's going on. So,
Well,
You might
thank
have
you.
to create a TikTok, Satoya, to
I
reach the
know
college students.
that's the going thing, right?
Truthfully, so I look forward to y'all creating a TikTok now about
Listen,
Snap for
I'll
college
I'll
students.
tag you in it. How about that?
Yeah, there you go. Well, we do very much appreciate you getting this information out. As we said earlier, we will distribute as much information as we can, because I think this is a very, very important topic that folks really haven't talked about or known about, even though these benefits have been available for students, but just being more transparent about what it takes to get these services, and that it's not that difficult, right? And that a
Right,
lot of
right,
students qualify. So a lot more than we anticipate, right? So
right,
again,
right.
thank you. And we hope that everyone on
Thank
this
you.
webinar found the presentation helpful. We will email everyone a recording of this webinar in the next 24 hours. We'll send that email to you with a recording of this, and we'll also post it on our YouTube channel for other people to access if they were unable to join us today. So if you have any follow-up questions on the information, feel free to contact us or Satoya and her group over at MDHS. And I'm sure that, as she has said earlier, they will be glad to get that information for y'all. So today was our second webinar of the Fall Topic Tuesday series. Stay tuned for our next Topic Tuesday webinar, which will be on Tuesday, October 7th. And we will be talking about exploring Mississippi careers with a new tool, the Skills Navigator. So we look forward to seeing some of y'all in October. We will continue this webinar series through the fall and spring semesters, and all of our fall and spring topics are listed here on the screen. If you participate in 5 webinars over the fall and spring, you'll have the opportunity to apply for 0.5 CEUs. And if you participate in all 10 over the fall and spring semesters, you'll have the opportunity to apply for 1 full CEU. The remaining webinars will include, for the fall, will include topics such as navigating early enrollment options and tribal colleges. So we're looking forward to the rest of our fall topics. These webinars are listed under the educator header on our Get to College website, and then you select Topic Tuesday under the events. While you were there registering, please check out all the other resources for you and your students listed under the Educator tab. We have lots of training opportunities for the 25-26 school year, and we hope that you will register for as many of them as possible. So new, off the press today, this is the first webinar that we have included these dates. We just set dates for MDE Get to College Regional Counselor Trainings. These are for K through 12, or the high school counseling population. So it will only be registration will only be open for that population. But it is going to be, we're going to have 3 across the state, one here in central Mississippi on October the 9th at Holmes Community College, a second one on the very next day, October 10th, down on the Gulf Coast at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College in Biloxi. And then a third for those of you in the North region at Itawamba Community College in Belden. So we will be getting those on our website, hopefully today, and registration will be open very, very soon for those. Also want to let you know that we have been going across the state in the recent weeks doing in-person college access educator trainings, but we do have a virtual option for those of you who might have missed the in-person, and that is coming up very soon on Thursday, September the 18th. So if you missed our in-person college access statewide tour in the last couple of weeks, please join us for our virtual college access training. Also, as usual, we will have some FAFSA 101 trainings that will take place prior to the FAFSA opening on time this year on October 1st. So we'll be offering in late September some FAFSA 101 trainings in all of our centers, the Jackson, South Haven, and Ocean Springs centers. So we hope that y'all will join us for one of those in person. We'll also be doing some FAFSA 101 trainings in late September, early October, or mid-October in community colleges across the state at Holmes Community College, Colin Natchez, Northeast Community College, and Meridian Community College. So lots of opportunities for you to see us in person to get that FAFSA 101 training. And then if you can't see us in person, as always, we will offer virtual FAFSA 101 trainings as well. We have 3 dates in the fall and then 2 in the beginning of the spring semester to catch us virtually. It will be the same material that we do in person, just in that virtual space. And then lastly, on our training, a new training that we started last year, we kind of piloted it last year, FAFSA 201 training. So some people have said, Shannon, what's the difference in FAFSA 101 and FAFSA 201? So I'll let you know that FAFSA 201 is a scenario-based training. So it is helpful that you've attended or at least have the basics that happen in FAFSA 101. Not 100% required that you do it, but I think you'll be a little more comfortable in the FAFSA 201 training. We will kind of go over some of the basics as we begin that FAFSA 201 training, but we really will dive right in and do some pretty tough scenario-based training, and we'll work together in groups. So last year we only did this virtually. This year we are going to be piloting this in person in our 3 centers in late October and early November. So this is a fun training, and we hope that y'all will join us in person for one of those. And then also we'll continue what we started last year and do it virtually if you can't make it in person. And again, even though it's virtual, we will do some group work and break into groups while we were on Zoom. So if you're going to attend this, make sure that you know this is kind of a hands-on. You got to participate in the training. So we look forward to seeing y'all at any or all of these trainings, as the training team is very excited to ramp up our fall training sessions here, especially about the FAFSA. Y'all know we love the FAFSA, so we're excited about that. In the meantime, if y'all have any questions, as usual, please feel free to contact us on any of our social media sites, Facebook or Instagram, or our website. We also have a training email that I should probably include in this last slide. But if you need to contact us, it's training@get, the number 2, college.org. So we look forward to seeing you all in October for our next Topic Tuesday. And in the meantime, if you have any questions at all, feel free to contact us, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks again, Satoya, and we hope that y'all have a great month of September, and we'll see you back here in October.
Thank you so
See you
much.
later. You're welcome.